with a piece of music, and I'm going to play that music again. And those of you who like music or have listened to jazz and have heard of this guy called B.B. King, um, this is the. We won't be able to play the whole song, but in your own time, I suggest you listen to it and listen to the words, because it's a wonderful um, lyrical song about rising above the line. So it kind of begins with the thrill is gone, and he talks about the relationship, and towards the end, he comes to this place where he says, and now I'm free of your spell, which I thought is brilliant. So I'm going to play the music, and we're going to make some changes in between. And I want, so if you've got your headphones, it's best to listen to on headphones. So if you've got a headset, I suggest you put it on, and don't put the volume too loud, okay? But enjoy the music, and we're going to make some changes, and then we'll talk about it at the end of it, okay? So enjoy the show. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm curious what the last few minutes have been like. What's the experience like?
Love this music. And it takes me to slow, happy, and deep space.
Did you notice anything about the quality of the music as we went through the piece?
Yeah, it was changing. It was flipping. And
describe it.
Sorry?
Describe.
So the quality was like, sometimes it was sounding from a barrel, sometimes it was only high pitches, sometimes it was only low, and sometimes there was volume to it.
Right. Do you know how to do that to music when you listen to music?
No.
No? Okay. Anybody knows?
To change the settings in the equalizer?
Sorry? Say that again.
Equalizer.
Right, equalizer. So those of you so those of you who don't know, here's an introduction to how you can change your music when you listen to music. Like Natalia said, that sometimes it was screeching and sometimes you couldn't hear the words and you're fooling around with it. So what we were trying to do is to really share with you what the experience of music in high frequencies and low frequencies and so on. So music, the experience of music can change depending on how you play with those sliders, okay? And normally an equalizer looks something like, okay, so before we begin, just wanted to share with you before we begin the real conversation about the topic. We've come to that place, I think, where we're going to be hitting some heat with content. I said that last time. And this song, if you were following the lyrics, kind of, they really reach out. At least when I listen to it, it reaches out to me and it says, thrill is gone, and he's kind of really feeling low and stuff like that, you know. And then after a while, he kind of says, okay, now I'm feeling much better because I've been able to deal with you and your spell is gone. And now my life is going to be normal again. Yay, celebration. And it's that whole experience of our relationship with that line that sometimes we're below the line and we got to drag ourselves up, and sometimes, and many times when we are on top of that line and we're dealing with life in a wonderful way, there's a great deal of joy. And so much of life has to do with, you know, getting on top of that line. So I was asking he was attending his classes online. He's doing his final year of college, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of giggling about it because I kind of remember when I asked him, I said, so what are your classes like? And his response was, I'm so below the line today. And just to be able to express that, and you know, and then I knew exactly what he was talking about. And I didn't have to say anything to him. And he said, I got to find a way of getting myself above that line. And the thing he said was that, you know, how can I make this work for me? That everything that my lecturer is telling me, I know, so it's kind of boring. I said, surely there's something that you can get from it. And I think maybe the question is, how can I make this work for me? Because otherwise you can go through hours of torture. I hope this course is not like that for you. But I won't ask for an answer right now. Sometimes you just have to tolerate me. And, you know, if it gets like that, do let me know. Just say, yeah, I'm below the line help, and we'll do something. Okay, so, so when we listen to music, music is a bunch of frequencies. Sound waves at different, I mean, those of you Any physics teachers here? No? Okay, so it's a bunch of frequencies and wavelengths, and depending on the wavelength, it defines what the sound is like. And different kinds of music will give you will play with different frequencies. So you have somebody like B.B. King who, he's king of the guitar, and the kind of frequencies that he plays and what you listen to. And then you have, what is this kind of music called? Anybody?
Heavy metal?
Heavy metal, man. Yeah, and it says it all. Metal. It's the sound of metal, and it's hard to listen to for a long time. And then you have, do you know who this is?
Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton, and she's got this beautiful voice. And so the guys who play sound, who control the sound, what they do with that equalizer is very different for each one of these kinds of music. Anybody who know this is?
Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury, Queen. Yeah, absolutely. Nice. Anybody who know who this is?
Bob Dylan.
Yeah, man. Okay, so Bob Dylan, you god of lyrics. He just wrote some incredible stuff, great music. He's still alive. We will be possibly using some of his work a little later on the course. Okay, so when that sound guy is playing the music, you can't have a B.B. King setting for heavy metal, and you can't have a heavy metal setting for Dolly Parton. And what they do is play around with these frequencies. Okay, this is what an equalizer looks like. Now, does it look familiar? Yes,
Yeah.
No, maybe, yeah. Okay. So in the kind of work we do, a lot of what we do is about tuning what we do and how we do it with our audiences, right? And while in sound, you may have 32 hertz and kilohertz, actually it's 64 kilohertz, and you see those numbers on that. We've got 5 pieces that we often play around with in the kind of work we do in experiential methodology. And I'm going to quickly run you through these 5 things, and I want you to think about any experience either that you have had or you have created, okay? And begin to look at it in the context of these 5 elements. Here we go. And this is what we, I think in deep 2, we were just talking about it, and somebody said, hey, you know what, those 4 words that you're talking about, they make a word by themselves, so PIES. So we decided to call it the PIES model. And it stands for physical, intellectual, emotional, and social challenges. Okay. Now you can look at this at PIES in 2 contexts. One is the experience itself, and the other is when you design an activity, what do you want to see happen? So give me 1 second. Okay. Any questions so far? Good. So let's just look, and of course, these 4 elements operate in the environment that we're in, which can also be tuned. So think of that as the volume dial. Okay, you can increase it or lower it. And now we're going to go into a little more detail about each one of these. So let's, for just, for us to build context, I'm going to use an activity that's often used. A lot of people use this. It's called pipes and marbles. And when we look at an activity, we're looking at 3 or 4 pieces that we want to think about before we get the group to experience the activity. So one is, and I want to distinguish 2 pieces here, which are often used to sometimes mean the same thing, but in the context of activities, I'm going to separate them. One is goals. So what are the goals of the activity? And the goals of an activity refer to things that are in the context of what you intentionally want them to encounter. And in this case, it was explore relationships to customer expectations, practice problem solving skills, and goal setting and attainment. Okay, those are the goals. Those are the materials, and the objective is in the context of the activity. And what's the objective? To deliver as many marbles as possible within the given time. Now, that's all stuff, but what I want you to look at is, so this is what the activity looks like. Raise your hand if you know or have encountered this activity. Or just put a thumbs up. Okay. Anybody needs to know more about this? Raise your hand. Okay. So it's a bunch of half-cut pipes, okay, as you see. And you define a point A and a point B, and you want the group to deliver, so they start on this side of one line, and they have to deliver the marble to this side of the other line, okay? Now, so everybody has to be on this side of the line when the marble is dropped into the first pipe section. Then they can move. Now the rules, as you can see there, the marble may never stop. So it has to be continuously moving while it is in a pipe section. They cannot roll back. They cannot be dropped on the ground. The pipe sections can't touch each other. And whoever has the marble in their pipe section, they cannot move their feet, which essentially means they can't just take a marble in their pipe section and walk to the other end. So now you have a lot where people have to depend on each other and form a line and so on and so forth, pass it to each other. Have you got it visually now, Anaga, Aditi? Yeah? Okay, great. Well, think of that. Now, in this activity, so I'm just going to use that as the activity, and I'm going to play around with, okay, what does it mean to play with that equalizer in the context of PIES? Physical, intellectual, emotional, and social. How can I change the challenge level? Okay. So let's look at the physical. Anybody has a question, please stop me now, because any questions? Wonderful. I'm very clear today. Yes.
So you might explain this later, but why is it that the environmental is a knob and not like why is the environmental meter different than the other ones?
Well, simple answer is it just looks better and more complete on an equalizer.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you could have any one of these as a knob and the other as sliders. But I think the point is sometimes when you raise when you change something in the environment, it affects all four.
Right.
Got it?
All right.
Okay. Great. So any other questions? No. Good. Let's continue. So physical, how do we, when we look at, if you want to play around with the physical challenge of things, what are the different things that you can do? Now you got to imagine the rest of it, okay? The pipe section is usually about 1.5 feet long. If you shut somebody's eyes, can you imagine what will happen? Feel free to put your mic off and chat. Any ideas what will happen?
Physical challenge would increase.
You get crazy hard.
Yes, Rishabh?
It'll become crazy hard.
Crazy?
Yeah, it'll be very hard. You'll have to communicate more.
Right.
Crazy
Oh,
hard.
pretty hard. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, what will you have to do then? How does it? So you change that whole thing to blindfolding.
Hmm.
What's like? What are you likely to see
A change
happening?
in emotions.
Go on, tell me more.
So I think it will also lead to people being a little more nervous, or people actually, because they can't see, so they'll still want to communicate more, get feedback from peers in terms of what's happening. So it'll also affect the social component, and
Right.
they'll also get them probably more focused.
Absolutely. So you're already talking in the language of the model, which is if you get them to be blindfolded, then the social knob, the slider moves up automatically because now there's a greater need for having conversations, of getting feedback, giving feedback. It also raises the emotional slider because people are potentially likely to get frustrated because they can't see a damn thing, and they're gonna, and the level of dependence increases. Okay, so just one little thing, and it affects so many different things. Yeah. So I don't know, those of you who have run activities, very often we don't think about it in this way. We just say, okay, let's just blindfold them. But we are not really looking at, okay, how is it going to affect these different pieces? And very often we are ourselves unclear about what it is that we want to get from that experience. So here's a way of looking at what we do or what we get children to do, or our audiences to do, and see, okay, and rethink that whole thing before and say, okay, I'm going to, for example, I'm going to give them all ink pens, and I'm not going to give them ink, and I'm going to ask them to take notes in class today. What's it likely
Not
to do?
possible.
What is not possible?
The
Did I hear
result
that?
that you're aiming for,
Why not?
because I mean the goal is to put down notes,
Is it?
and there's no tool to.
Careful.
Okay.
Is it?
The goal can also be for them to find a way to take down the notes, even though.
Good.
Yes.
Good. And if I say the only tool you have is a pen without ink, what does it invite them to do? Imagine
Finding.
Think
going
creatively.
on. What would you? Sorry?
Think creatively. Find out solutions.
Go
Yeah.
on. Now you are the student.
So I think initially it will make me a little, it'll
Chika,
just
can I
push me
say
to think.
it's making me uncomfortable. Haha.
Okay, is it better now?
Well,
My internet is
my,
not great.
my emotional ladder is kind of.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay, so I think it will initially it will get me a little. It will just push me to think a lot,
Go on.
because I'll and it'll also
Stop. Think a lot.
in terms
Which
of
of the
how
pies,
can I get about do
which of
it.
the pies is being affected?
Intellectual.
That's it. Go on.
So it can also lead to a little bit of frustration in terms of, because the way someone just said impossible. So that can actually lead to impossible wala aspect as well. So that is
Frustration.
impacting my social emotional wala part. I'm so sorry.
Right.
And so social can also be, I may want to talk to other people, or I'll actually be interrupting you continuously in the class so that I can figure out different ways to take notes.
Yeah, but I won't
So
be there. You see, I'm just going to say, get your pen ready, then we talk.
then we'd be probably talking to other people to figure out how they're doing, or how can I share ideas and collaborate.
Right. So all I did was change one physical aspect, and it goes and bumps along. It raises the challenge level intellectually, emotionally, and socially. You get it? Okay. Now, if the environment is during now imagine this. I specifically choose a classroom that does not, or a building that does not have the resources. The ink is in a bottle in another classroom across the lawn. It's raining. What happens? You see, I changed the environment. Now the environment is not just the classroom anymore. It's not as if I'm going to keep a bottle of ink in the back of the classroom. Now I've changed everything. Okay, can you hear music? Is that me? No.
Very
Okay.
faint.
Very
Very
faint,
faint.
yes.
Okay, great. So anybody who needs a better understanding of this, of how this is affecting, just one little thing can change a lot of different things. Okay, so let's just walk down this list with the details of different things that can be done. And anytime you are working on an activity with your groups, do go through this exercise of, you know, making 4 columns or 5 columns and saying, okay, physically, how can I change it? Intellectually, how can I change it? We'll come to that. So physically in this activity, using water instead of marbles. Can you imagine what will happen? So I was
Video is
working,
on.
sorry? Say that again. Okay. So I was working with an organization that, you know, it's an oil company. And so instead of marbles, I decided to use water, and I gave them, so how it works is this, that in some deep sea somewhere, they have the oil rig, and they found oil, and they're pumping out this oil, and that oil is then sent through a pipeline to the shore, where it is collected in drums and so on, in huge containers. So you've got the starting point and the finish point. And I gave them, I said, you know, here's a bucket of water. And your objective is to transfer this bucket of water from point A to point B. And then, you know, you can add intellectual pieces to it, like, here's how much this thing costs. This is how many people it's going to take. And this is the minimum amount of oil that I want delivered here. Otherwise, the organization, the company is going to be in a loss. So if it's 100,000 gallons being pumped, ideally we want 100,000 gallons at the other end. And I'll show you some pictures and videos of what emerged as a result, and how an activity like that, that is tweaked to that degree, can create an experience where I really did not have to facilitate much. I didn't have to do too much reflection. I just asked them a couple of questions and they got it. And the whole point was that, oh, we'll come to that. Okay, so using water instead of marbles, setting expectations. So I say, there are 10 marbles here. I want you to deliver 10 marbles to the other side in the next half an hour. And I can play with time and distance that they have to travel. And I can play with that and change that physical challenge level. I can tie them up in pairs to limit movement. I can put a condition that pipes must be in contact with 2 people while the marble is in it. Can you imagine? You know, at this point in time, you have to imagine a lot of this stuff. Now, you know, have marbles that are not perfect globes. Sometimes you have those lopsided things, right? They're kind of oval, they're like eggs. And they move very differently from a regular circular orb, as it's called. Now, there was a scenario in which my equipment went in one direction and I went to the program, and I had decided to run this activity. And marbles you can get in any shop, but the pipe sections, there wasn't time for me to go to a guy and get them cut in half and so on and so forth. So I just kind of got creative at that point in time. I said, okay, you know, you have A4 sheets of paper, and give each one a sheet of paper and say, you're going to transport the marble using that. So the challenge level changes considerably the moment you use paper instead of a pipe. Okay, this is just examples of increased physical challenge level. Any questions or comments? Yes, Joshua.
So I remember that in session 3, you made us do an activity. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I remember you once told us close your eyes and touch your nose or touch your elbow. And then where you came from, like where you took us was that this is happening from a place of intuition. So in these, in PIES, where does intuition stand?
It doesn't, not yet. It's not something that you can control. These are elements that we can control. Remember, this is part of the outer world. What you are referring to is the inner world.
So then again, going back to the not Cole's model, I think it was, you know, the model I'm talking about, senses and then feeling, thinking, becoming.
Colin Beard's model, yeah.
Correct, Colin Beard's model. So the physical is obviously in the outer world, the social is in the outer world, but intellectual and emotional isn't that the inside? How they feel is how they think.
Yes.
But then you just said this was the outer world, not the inner world.
Yeah, I can only do stuff in the outer world. I don't know how they're going to receive it.
Okay, so even the intellectual and emotional, you're saying I don't have control over it, but I can still influence it.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah, of course we can influence it. I mean, I could do something really stupid right now and get you all to feel really bad about it.
Got it.
Question is that what we want to do? So what we want to do, we've got to be clear in our heads, and this is where it really helps. We'll come to it, okay? So let's go to the next slider, the intellectual slider, which is the thinking piece. That what do I want them to think about? If you let's connect it with Colin Beard's model, the inner world. The question we ask is, what do I want them to think about? Describing the props and giving them the activity brief. So you just give them a sheet of paper. There are different ways that you can present the challenge to them. One is you can give it verbally and say, so I've used many different methods. Very often, I will say, okay, are you paying attention? So I'll do something to get their attention. Then I'll say, I'm going to say this only once. Do you want to think about how you are going to listen? And most people will ask me, what do you mean by how I'm going to listen? I'm going to listen with my ears. I say, no, I'm going to give you some instructions. How are you going to remember those instructions? They say, oh, okay, can we form groups? Yeah, form groups. And then they will go through a process. Just by doing this, I have invited them into the intellectual piece and saying, I want you to think about how you're going to listen. And then they will share responsibilities and say, okay, how many lines are you going to speak? And I might say 4 or 5. And they say they make groups of 4 or 5. But here I've got their attention to their focus to a level which otherwise we often miss out on. Because they think that the teacher is there constantly and they can lean on the teacher. But the more they lean on us as educators, and the more we agree to that leaning, the more dependency we build. And in my opinion, education is about making them independent of the educator. Not different from parenting. Okay? So I got their attention. Now I say, okay, you ready? And I say it only once. And they will share that information. They will forget, they'll get frustrated, all kinds of things will be happening. But intellectually, I've got them where I need them to be. Sometimes I will not show them the props at all. I will just describe the props. And now they have to imagine what the props look like. Then they have a conversation. Oh, it could be this, it could be that. What if it is this, then how shall we do it? What if that changes? So all that is happening even before the activity has begun. Okay. Once I've given the instructions, before I give them the props, I will often say, okay, before you even touch the props, I want you to think about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And that's addressing, again, the intellectual piece, that I want you to think about what you're going to do. And just remember, you can make up more of your own. Anybody got an idea how you might take that intellectual slider higher? Any thoughts? And of course, it'll be in the context of what you do.
For example, if I teach biology. So for example, if I'm teaching biology and if it's a topic which they have learned before. So if I ask them to recollect or try to give me examples of what you know about it. So will that be intellectually challenging them?
Yes,
Like
but
try to recollect their knowledge.
Yeah, as long as there's a connect between the recollection and whatever you're going to teach. Yes.
Okay.
But that's called a front load.
Okay.
You're front loading and getting them to think about what they know so that they can then relate that to what you're going to teach them. Yes, that is one way of doing it. But what if you were teaching them a new topic? Let's say you're going to teach them about leaves. Give me an example of how you might want to engage them intellectually. Or flowers or whatever. I mean.
By intellectually. So all I'm able to think right now is examples where I ask them to, for example, if I show them a picture of a flower and ask them ki, okay, I'm not able to form something.
Stop.
Yeah, I'm not able to form something.
Right. Okay, this is open to everybody, right? So Aditi, don't feel like you're on the spot. Anybody. How will you engage them intellectually if you were teaching them about leaves of flowers?
I could maybe start with a question that I'm going to discuss later, but I can just ask them why with a why. So maybe if I want to teach them about photosynthesis or the colors of the leaves, so I can just start with, so why do you think leaves are green? And let them come up with the answers, and then you can use it as a knowledge building discussion to come up with whatever the solution is finally.
I think, Vishwas, you can even talk about movement of the nutrients into the plants, you know, the xylem and the phloem, how would it probably, that is the thing if it is here.
I would ask my students, what if the leaves...
Sorry, go on. Somebody was speaking.
I would ask my students, what if those leaves are not there in a plant? How would the plant function, or would the plant be able to function? So just try and make them analyze and just think, let them think in a way which is which will direct their learning.
Just a thought. Everything that you have heard so far is addressing a higher level of thinking. Remember, our purpose is to start from where they are. What do they know about leaves?
So if I ask them...
Yeah, sorry.
Actually, it has to be started like what they know and what they want to know. So I'm saying it has to be, I feel that it has to be started with what they know and what they want to know about leaves. So if they'll tell us what they already know.
Gayatri, you're in the classroom, I'm the student. Go on.
So I'll ask you, so Vishwas, please tell me, what do you know about these green things? Maybe I show them the green things and I ask them, so what do you think that these green things are?
Don't take the adventure away from me. If you show me something, if you show me a plant, for example, I don't know if that's what you were intending to do. The moment you do that, in some ways you've taken away the adventure. Do you see that? Because now...
So are you talking about a hook to start with? Are you talking about a hook to start with? Right? You're saying, how do we challenge them intellectually?
Go on.
So can we have a slideshow?
Challenge at the start of the lesson.
If you have a slideshow, you've given it away. What will you show me?
No. So just a few different kinds of leaves and just ask them as to what they can identify, where we've seen them.
What assumption are you making when you show me leaves? Why are you showing me leaves?
That they observe things that they have seen them before, or they have
Then why
sort
are you
of
showing
seen the
them to
different
me?
kinds. Just to see whether how observant have you been.
Then do that.
So if I
Take
ask
them
them
out in the
to,
garden.
Good. One possibility. Okay. Take them out into the garden. What else could you do sitting in that classroom? Shashwat, if you raise your hand and say nothing, you see, everybody's going to take the mic away. I can sense that.
Okay, I can speak. So I remember in one deep class we had a game.
Don't go too deep. Nobody knows about it here.
Okay, no, it's a simple game. So I remember instead of giving answers, we start talking in questions.
I am your student, you're the teacher, ask me a question. Don't give me all this intellectual stuff.
I thought that's what the whole point was, to make it
intellectual. Yeah, but I'm your student, now give me intellectual stuff.
Okay, so we're going to play a game where I'm going to show you something and then all of you are going to make a conversation, but the rule of this game is that we're only going to talk in questions.
Okay. Okay.
So now you're getting them to, you're trying to see what makes them.
Go on, do it.
Okay, and then you could show them the leaf and ask them, what is this?
Okay. Then next. It's a leaf.
No, the whole
No,
thing
you
is
have to ask
to
the
play
question.
you better talk in questions, no answers.
Is it a leaf?
What do you see?
Do I see green? Is the color green?
Yeah.
Does green imply leaves?
Okay, Shashwat, you've complicated it considerably. This is not an easy game.
It is not an easy game.
Right. So here's the thing. At some point in time, we're going to get to it, but we've got to be able.
Can I say something, please, before you move on and tell the exact answer, because you never tell the answer now somehow. You are right now.
Okay, sorry. So I will tell you the answer.
But I want to say one tiny thing before you move on. You said, how do we challenge them intellectually? If they have the ability to ask questions from us, they are already challenged intellectually. If we provide them space to ask us questions or ask us what they want to know, or just tell us what they want to know about leaves, then that challenges them intellectually.
Gayatri.
Yes, sir.
Role play it with me.
Don't what?
Trishti, you're next. I hear you want to say something. See, this is the struggle. You all know the answer. I know
I have
you
a
know
role
the
play.
answer. But it's a completely different thing to step out there into a classroom and follow it through. And I'm just playing. Yeah, this is the test.
Okay.
Yes, Trishti.
I would ask them to plant.
Don't ask them. I am them. This is good.
Like you to plant plants in different conditions and see how they grow to figure or make sense of how it works.
Whoa, that's a long-term project.
I know.
I'm not saying that's wrong. Okay, now.
I have one possible role play. Can I play?
Okay.
So Vishwas, I've come to class today. I have a little riddle for you. I come in many different shapes and sizes. I'm found all over the world. I help support all life on this planet. And sometimes I come in different colors and you eat me. Discuss in your groups of 3 and 4 and tell me what you think they are. What I could be.
Plants.
What?
Trees.
Okay. Which parts of plants and trees?
Leaves. Fruits.
And then from there, so
Flowers.
from there I would start an exploration. So today we're going to...
Thank you. Got it. So here's the thing. That was a good way of beginning it. Now, at its simplest level, I might even say, if I was really more directed in wanting to finish my worksheet for the day, I might ask something more directed like, what do you know about leaves? Okay. And now getting them to think. Remember, this is about getting them to think about it and starting from what they know. Then you know what they know, then it's easier to build on that and scaffold on that. Okay, great. So
which was, yeah, sorry, Bindu.
Yes, Bindu.
So I had thought, I mean, on those lines, as very simple, say, first to begin with, have you all seen leaves? An obvious answer, yes. And
Yes.
then to begin with,
I'm the student.
to begin with, have you seen leaves?
Yes.
Yes. So it is to the class, and is it, are all the leaves same?
No.
So how and why? What do you think is different?
Their
Or how are
shapes
they?
are different. Their colors are different.
Yeah, so this is how I would just start with, and
Nice,
what the difference
nice.
that would.
That's it. That's it. And it's as simple, very often as simple as that. Sometimes I think we think in adult, complicated, and if you don't mind my saying so, often cruel ways, because we are trying to get them to, for some reason, we're trying to find out what they don't know rather than what they do know. And I think one of the questions we can ask ourselves is, okay, what are they likely to know, and then move from there. And, you know, always the simplest questions first. If I encounter a classroom that says, no, we don't know what leaves are, damn, I would take them out into the jungle straight away. Because if they don't know what a leaf is, then that's something they need to know before I even begin anything else. That makes sense? So think of it. So, you know, there's so many educators on the screen right now. Please begin to think in terms of your pies, because it is something that we don't do. We just go out there very often delivering somebody else's idea of content, and we do it because we are supposed to, not because the children need to know it. But if we work from a different place and we say, if I want children to know about leaves, where do I begin? Then it makes absolute sense that we begin from where they are. Yeah? Okay. So that's the intellectual piece. I mean, it would be brilliant if you, you know, for example, I'm going to give you the answers. God, I'm changing my style because of this screen, but I'll give you the answers. I don't normally, you know that. Here's something that I might experiment with. I might bring a bag of leaves and a bag of blindfolds. And the bag of leaves has different textures, colors, shapes. Then I get them into smaller groups. And I get them, put the blindfold on, pick a leaf from the bag, draw it, describe it, size it, measure it. Imagine what color it might be. I know it's a little crazy, but I can assure you one thing, that within one classroom session, they would have learned, and not just they would have experienced it. You see, a lot of biology is taught in the classroom, and it's kind of strange. So just think about, and almost any concept, any part of the content, I haven't figured out the algebra piece yet, okay? But almost anything that's taught in school can be experientialized. That word does not exist in the dictionary. And I think the trick is to find out how we can experientialize something. Okay? Cool. Any experience that you create will have an emotional response. I want to just go back to something I've said earlier. Any experience we create, think of 3 things that you want involved. Do you remember what they are? 3H? I think we've talked about it.
Head, heart, and hand.
Hard hand. Okay.
Vishwas,
Yeah.
we are talking of experiencing and creating an experience. In a virtual setup, how do you create an experience?
I asked you to get some A4 sheets ready, didn't I?
No.
I did. Anybody did not get the message?
No, I didn't.
Besides, yeah, okay. So you have no supporters today, then. Sorry.
Sorry, but I must have missed it.
Got it. I get that. I'm completely compassionate for that in that condition. But now, this is what I did. I said, get a bunch of A4 sheets. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Get a bunch of, so if I was to do this virtually, get a bunch of leaves, put them in a bag, and bring them to class. Now, get a hanky as well. And when I'm doing this, I can conduct this virtually as well. Make sense? Here's the thing. A lot of the things that we know intellectually, we do not know experientially. Can I give you an example?
Yes.
Okay, here's the question. It's rhetorical. Now, don't give me silly answers, which means answers that I don't accept. Okay, so imagine you want to lose weight. Imagine, or put on weight, whatever. Okay, now, using one hand, show me how many kilos you want to gain or lose. Okay.
Repeat it.
Using one hand, show me on your camera how many kilos you want to lose or gain. Okay, you have a number? Nice. How do you know how much that weight is? What is the weight of 4 kilos?
You have a scale.
You don't have a scale, not yet.
Two packets of atta, or 2 packets of sugar, the 2 kilo packets of sugar, or something that I have weighed and I know.
Okay, here's what I want you to do.
That I have held and I know.
Okay, here's what I want you to do. Get up from your seat and pick up any object that you think is equal to the weight that you want to lose or gain. Go on. I'm giving you 2 minutes. Ah! Somebody's got, I love that. Okay, great. Now, yeah, keep it alive, okay? Keep it alive. Some people are still getting their stuff together. Let's just give it a few more seconds. Natalia, that's not 5 kilos. That's like, unless you fill it with water, I won't believe it.
Yeah, imagine it has water.
So here's the thing. We've got to move away from the imagination. You understand what I'm saying? Make it real. When we do it with our students, we've got to make it real. Otherwise, somebody will hold a cup in their hand and say, oh, I'm going to fill this with gold. Gold is a heavy metal or lead or whatever, and I'm going to imagine it. Not good enough. The experience is never the same as the intellectual piece. You got an object? Now just look at what you got. And don't ever forget how much that load is, because that is what you want to lose or gain. God bless you all. Zen, does that answer your question? How
Yes,
do you
thank you. Very well.
something?
Thank you. Thank you.
Damn, I'm brilliant. Okay. So, next one, the social piece. How do you increase social challenge? And what are essentially social means how people interact, how they talk to each other, what they talk about, when they talk about it, so on and so forth. And so not talking while transport, can you imagine doing an activity without talking? Which other slider is it going to affect?
Emotional.
Emotional.
Intellectual.
Also
Physical.
Also
And physical.
yeah, right. And to remember, each one of these things will do it to different degrees. Not talking at all, allowing only sign language and no writing.
And it might also eventually change the environment, which is.
Give me an example.
For example, I mean, if there is like individuals learning, but then there is a community learning. I mean, when the community will think, they will think differently. What if a community thinks that, no, I don't want to sit inside and learn, I want to go outside in a park and learn. So for example, like this.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking of that first one, not talking while transporting the marble is very often, I mean, how many of you read it as not talking at all? Right. And all I said is not talking while transporting. And somebody in the middle of the whole activity, usually towards the end, will say when we are transporting the model, means as long as we're not transporting, we can talk as much as we want. Just when we are transporting the marble, we can't talk. Okay, so restricting the number of words that can be used. So if you say you can't use, so here's the beautiful thing. You can also, you can say, for example, if you can imagine the activity, can you tell me what that activity could be used for in a student's context?
The marble activity?
Yes.
What
can you use it to teach?
Teamwork.
Team building.
Okay.
As in like, yeah, to work with each other basically.
Hello.
Communication, cooperation.
Excuse me, ladies, because I've heard only ladies' voices so far. None of those words are part of your curriculum.
You can, in geography, you can probably teach drainage pattern, how the water flows from high to low.
Wonderful. Now, let's just take that for example, okay?
That is a very good example to teach that. And it's difficult for kids to understand on an intellectual level.
But they're doing it.
Yes.
And this is exactly like this classroom. You know exactly, you know everything. I'm just giving you a language. You know all this stuff. So you can use it to do that. Suppose we now said that, so what does that marble now become?
Water.
What does the pipe become?
Topography, the land, you know, the highs and lows in it. And
now, if when they're doing the activity, you say, you can't use pipe and marble anymore, you have to use geographical vocabulary. It just changes the entire thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, each time they talk about it, they're visualizing high level, low level, stuff like that. They might even fight you and say, but ma'am, water collects in low levels. Oh, great. Okay, which means that that rule of the marble not stopping is now gone. Maybe they'll collect it. They'll collect 5 marbles there and then go whoosh like that. Overflow. Brilliant. God, you guys are good. Okay, so defining roles. So in the context of geography lesson, some people are hills, some people are mountains, some people are ditches, some people are rocks. I don't know, they might stop the flow of water. Okay, you got it. Great. So just remember, next time you choose to do anything, please think in terms of this. You can play around with it so much, it's incredible. And of course, the environment. So here's something. So I used to, I guess before the COVID period, I used to do a lot of corporate training. And I was invited to present a case to the senior leadership group of 5 people on why they should adopt experiential methodology in their training. And they had given me half an hour. And what would you do? Quickly, what comes to mind?
Make them do something.
Okay.
I'd get them to experience 15 minutes of both and then let them decide.
God, you guys are so good. Why are you taking the answers away from me? I feel lost. Damn. Okay. So this is what I did. I did an activity. I didn't have the props and I had to create then and there something. And it was a different activity. Okay. It's an activity called porcupine progression. And you can find it on the web if you want. And the objective, so what I did was essentially this. Imagine a block of wood. On that is a nail. And I gave them a whole bunch of nails and I said, your objective is for you to assemble all these other nails. And I gave them 15 nails. And I said, your objective is to assemble these 15 nails on the head of that one nail. And you have 15 minutes. Can you imagine what happened? It was a mess. They couldn't do it. But in 15 minutes, they showed me how they function. And I just asked them a question. I said, hey, do you know how you function or do you want me to hold a mirror up to you? It was brilliant. They gave me work for the next 7 years. And the whole point is this, that when you, and it was a conference room, I could not have brought in any, shown it better. I had to create an idea then and there. So on the way to that place, I picked up a bunch of nails and a block of wood. I hammered one nail and my prop is ready. And it's a classic example of being able to have a repertoire of activities so you can modify them to suit whatever environment you're going to be working in. A lot of teachers have told me, oh, we have fixed benches and chairs. I said, great, no problem. There are ways you can work around it. The problem is that people never consider sitting on the bench instead of the chair or the table, whatever it's called. And if you did that and you allowed that freedom, you suddenly expand the volume available to be used. It's just pure physics. So you can tweak and experience the 4 sliders just by tweaking the environment. Okay? I hope does this feel like it's a tool you can use in your work? Any questions?
Vishwas,
Yeah.
I don't work with children per se, but I was thinking when you said if you can use one of these to impact the others, right? Like for example, I'm thinking maybe, you know, when people go on vision quests or send them on into the jungle and they have to spend some time, half a day, one day by themselves, that also will, the physical, emotional, all of these things also get like
Yeah.
like with adults there are different ways, or even when
Sure.
you say environment, how you set the environment even for adults gets them tuned or set into how do you want them to receive an experience.
Quite right.
Okay.
Okay, shall we move on? Okay, so here's some pictures and videos just for your entertainment. So you get a sense of what the activity is, and now just think of what we might have done. So here's the water thing. So that was the amount of water they collected, which essentially meant that most of the bucket of water was lost. And I said, what are you going to do if this happens, if that's the loss? That means 95% of your oil is gone, lost in transportation. And what do you need to do in order to get a little better at that? So here's just pictures of that whole oil company thing. Oops. Is it playing? Yeah, I think playing videos on Zoom is a challenge. Okay, great. So, here's an example of an adventure activity. Dr. Jaffrey, you might want to put some clothes on. Oh, man. Okay, so here's an activity where you have this 10 mm wire rope stretch across. It's an adventure activity. And the objective is to get a group of people across from one end to the other, point A to point B. And you can change the challenge level by giving them props. Do you think it'll make it easier or harder? That stick.
Easier.
Easier.
And think about, so you can very easily, when you're doing a reflection, you can ask them, when you find something hard, what does the stick represent for you? Does that make sense to you?
Come again, please.
Okay, I went too fast on that one. I'm going to do that a little slowly. So she decided to use that stick. Okay, the rules of the game are you have to stay on the line, on the wire between point A and point B, and you can't use other people for support. But if you fall or you step off the line, you can go back and start from the beginning. Okay? Now, I had kept a stick. I didn't tell them they could use it or not use it. I kept a stick kind of at a distance where they could reach it. And she reached out for it and she said, can I use this? And I said, would you like to? And she said, yes. I said, great, use it. And she went and did the activity. Do you think it raised the challenge or reduced the challenge level for her?
Reduced.
Quite right. So when I was doing the reflection, I said, Okay, is there a reason you reached out for that stick? Would you use it, or I'm asking the group now, would you have used it or not used it?
Used it.
Okay, so I'm asking you the question now. Why would you choose to use it?
It's more balance.
Support.
Okay.
Support, yeah.
Support for what?
To walk on the string.
Yeah.
And why are you walking on the string?
Challenging myself.
What else? What's the object? What's the goal? What's the objective of the activity?
To reach the other side.
Yeah, finish
Balance.
it in one go.
To go from point A to point B, right? Okay, great. So, in your life, you're on a journey. Would that be right? Imagine a point A and a point B. And if you can share it with me, great. If you can't, that's fine too. Let's just say you are at point A right now and you want to go to point B. Can you tell me what your point B is? Just for fun. We just want to use that.
Yeah.
What?
So my point B would be to eventually get to, working with outward bound or nulls.
Okay. And is it a easy journey or a difficult journey as you see it from where you are?
Very difficult.
Right. And do you think you can do it?
Yes.
What will you need?
Experience.
Which is equal to time.
Yeah.
What else?
And putting in a lot of hard work.
And
finding the right ways or methods to get there.
What is that? Give me an example.
Reading up, keeping myself physically fit.
Are you doing all these things?
I am trying to, yes.
There is no try. You know what?
Yeah,
you know the Indian try, what it means, no?
Sorry?
Do you know what the word, when culturally, in this part of the world, when we use the word try, you know what that means?
Well, then I would say yes, I am.
You are doing it.
Yes.
Good. Are you getting any support from anybody?
Yes.
Right. And is that support useful on this journey?
Extremely.
So that stick is an example of that support. That you're on your own journey.
Yeah.
But you're not falling off, but it's hard. It's going to be difficult. You're going to need support, and you're using that help right now.
Yeah.
That stick becomes a metaphor for the support that you need. Yeah. And by you offering that stick to people in and at the activity level, you can also bring it back in reflection and say, what are the sticks in your life that you're getting support from?
Right.
Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was one example. And then when that group was doing the activity, I said, okay, let's make an assumption that you have no such things available. Then what will you do? And this is what they came up with. What is the difference?
Instead of the stick, there are your team members helping you out. And also, now you have to solely trust your team members more, I think.
So who are the team members on your journey?
My mentors, my colleagues, my parents.
Yeah, so if I was really doing this reflection with you, I would say, don't use words like mentors and guides and blah, blah, blah. If you have a face and a name that you can put, tell me who they are. Because otherwise, we just see this cloud of people and heads, and the faces are blank.
Yeah.
And it takes a very different place for us to come to that place where we take ownership and say, this is who is part of my team right now.
All right.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, everybody okay? You're getting what I'm saying? Great. So changing the environment. Just other examples of changing environments. Make it difficult. Of the flow, blindfolding them, complicating it by not just delivering one. So this activity, they have to place that ball at the end. Okay, let me take that back a bit. They have to place that ball on this at the end of that pipe and balance it and then let it go. Okay. Now I just complicated it. Now you've got like 30 people around that place. And here's the video of it. So this is what an experiential classroom sounds like. Okay. Right. So we're coming to the end of this piece that we've talked about. How do we make environments safe? And everything that we've spoken about so far is really around that. So here is, are we doing okay. So over the years, collected a list of things that people said they would do or could do. Here's the list for you. And this was a question that they were asked, and this is what they came up with. If you don't understand something, feel free to ask. Thanks.
Vishwas?
Yeah.
What does introduction to place a program mean? The first one.
Yeah, maybe it should have been placed on a program.
Okay.
So introducing them to the boundaries of the place that they're at.
Okay.
If you're at a campsite, for example.
All right.
I mean, I just put up stuff that they said didn't do corrections. So an English teacher there, don't mind it.
Can you expand upon number 15? I noticed that that was the only one that had a question mark.
Yeah, so there's somebody who said, just to create expectations, stay consistent as a facilitator. And I said, is that really possible? So we put that as a question mark. And I said, is consistent behavior as a parent or an educator really possible? What does that look like? And when we couldn't define it, then we said, okay, maybe we should just put a question mark to it. Yeah, it's a long list.
Vishwas, can we have something like being approachable? Like it's coming across through different points, but as a educator or a facilitator, like being approachable, I personally feel like, when they feel safe enough to ask, talk, that kind of a thing.
So
matters a lot.
how will you practice being approachable?
Yeah, so something like what you do, I guess. I mean, like it is like, when
I don't know what I do. And will you know what you do?
Yeah, it is difficult to define, I would say, at this point for me.
So
Yes.
which means that it becomes difficult to practice. We only sense it.
Yeah,
and we know what we're sensing, but we don't know what the practice is, right?
Okay, got it.
And here's the thing. The moment you start putting down things, example, smile. Okay, I keep smiling. Does that make me approachable? You know what I'm saying, right? It's kind of tricky, but I hear what you're saying. But I think, okay, we'll come to that. I think there's a little piece later which might address some of that. How do you make a list for yourself? If I want to be approachable, what do I need to do? And the people who say, hey, look, I'm approachable, you can come and talk to me, are the people least go to. Sorry.
It's generally from the others that I am approachable or that person is approachable. Yeah, you're right.
Right. And nobody's coming to me. Why is nobody coming to me? Oh, I better figure that one out first. Yeah, okay.
I have a question about 38. What we must do. What
meaningfulness?
So are you saying the do is like, it depends on us?
Oh, 38.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess what they meant was we got to do something. So, what Bindu was saying, that we've got to do something positive, and how do you, okay, I can smile, and it's that doing equal to smiling is equal to approachable. But if we just keep it in our heads and do nothing, then we achieve very little. Maybe that's what it means.
I didn't understand 37 and 51.
Yeah, oh, lovely. Avoid neon signs about safety. For example, in an outdoor setting, if I put up a signboard that says, snakes found here, stay safe.
It'll restrict them to move forward.
Right. So if I walk into the classroom and say, today I'm going to give you a really hard maths test.
Yeah, it's intimidating right away.
And which was the other one?
51. Plan to death.
Yeah, that means.
Okay, now I understood actually.
Right.
Plan it really well to the
Right. Think about how much
the
goes
maximum.
into, if you give one, no, I've given you many other tools, but even if you did PIES in detail, think about how much thinking has to go into it. And if you can do that, plan to death. And then what it doesn't say at the end is what I usually say. And then when you walk into the classroom, throw it away. Because you've planned to death, yes, but when you walk in, you don't know the mood of your students. You don't know whether they're going to be interested that day. You don't know whether the topic is going to be interesting. And you've got to respond to what is real here and now. Most times we plan to death and then it becomes death. That was supposed to be funny. Nobody's laughing.
I don't think it worked.
Sorry?
I don't think it worked.
As
Well,
like
I
a
know it
tube
didn't.
light comment.
I'm looking at only serious faces. Only 2 people laughed, but 2 did. And that's all I worry about. Did 2 people laugh or no? Yes, I'm successful.
Yeah.
Okay. So over the years, I've been doing this for many years, and finally somebody asked me a really tricky question. And this was towards the end of Deep, and he said, okay, all this stuff you're teaching and all that, great, but what do you do? What do you think about when you walk into a classroom? What's going on in your head? And I think he had created a mood in the classroom where I could not refuse to respond. And I had never thought about what it is that I do. And then I sat down, and this is my list. So do you want me to run through them? You read them, and if you don't understand it, you ask, okay? They're short and sweet anyway. No?
Oh, wow.
Okay? Yeah.
I have a question about the one that says, am I open to outcome? Do I have expectations? So are you implying that one must not have expectations?
No.
So you're saying they can coexist?
Yeah, I don't have to be stuck to them. And if something changes with the audience, then I change with it.
You mean to say you will vary your outcome accordingly? Change.
I might.
Okay. Okay.
Or I might change it for the day. So I might not achieve the outcome on that day, but I say, okay, it seems like instead of going linear, I'm going to go around like that. But I'll get there. And I think that's one of the things we think is bad and wrong, because we've got to finish a worksheet in a day, but those worksheets are connected. And what's your rush in trying to finish that worksheet on that day? Why can that worksheet not be finished 3 days later while I continue my linear process?
That will also mean the first thing that, don't keep outcomes which will be difficult in the sense that, in a day, finish this and things like that. or rather keep achievable outcomes, like, expectations, or also should be something flexible, like, in a day this much, so that, your target or whatever, if you don't call it target, but you give it time so that it grows.
That's it. Adequate time, adequate time. And the issue is, you see, the problem is that we define what needs to be done, and then we create anxiety about getting there. But the whole issue is, I mean, am I going to school for me? Is that a good question or what? Am I going, as an educator, am I going to school for me?
No, for the kids.
If it's for the children, then it makes sense that I pace myself based on where they are, not where I want them to be or where I want to go.
Vishwas, I just wanted a small clarity here. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Clear. Okay. Regarding, I mean, there must be a little difficulty, say, especially with energy, willingness, and flexibility with online classes, where not really in control of the group.
Yeah.
So.
Do you ever have control of the group?
No, in the sense, each one in their place, rather than, how is it? Like, I mean, how do you find it? As what am I mindful about?
Okay. God. See, you asked me a question, now I have to answer it. Why am I doing this?
Experiential education teaching us, probably. No.
Hey, no, don't give me a non-committal answer. Now you got to play the game with me. Why am I doing this?
Probably teaching us, making us aware of. Oh, I know, I have no idea. Somebody's
so that more people
let them answer, please.
that more people practice this experiential method of education or learning.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Do I have any control over anything?
Not really. Not
Hey,
really.
don't say that. I'll feel terrible.
No, not really, unless you are able to influence or motivate or whichever, whatever.
I'm not in the business of motivation.
Yeah, I know that. That's what I was.
Good.
I didn't want to use that word.
What can I control? And just remember, as I talk about it, this is your story as well.
My response to the situation, I think you're only able to control how you are responding to all of us, our close friends.
Absolutely. And the only question I want to ask myself before I sit in this seat every Saturday are some of these questions. Am I prepared? Have I prepared? Damn it, I have. Do I know more than what I want to get across? Absolutely. Can I draw on my experience completely? Now, these are questions I haven't put here. So obviously this list has changed over the years.
Vishwas, here, sorry.
Yeah, go on, Asha.
I wanted to add a small thing here. Credit to you. During the online classes that we were taking, we were so used to, and as usual, as teachers, where are you? Why is the video not on? Sit in a particular manner. And ever since I began yours, I began to realize that yes, the disequilibrium is okay. The setup is okay. And I began to see the change in my class immediately. Then I relaxed, actually speaking.
You just spoke from my heart. I realized that, I've been doing this deep face-to-face for years. And I was cynical and I was an idiot about a lot of things.
Right.
Till I said, I have too much time on my hands. I've got to entertain myself. Oh, I like that dog. Sorry. And when I began, I said, look, what do I have control over? And you can see that this team sitting here. Oh, by the way, we're all three of us in one place today. Show your faces. And this guy has been pushing me, go online. I'm saying, oh, it's such a dead medium. I can't tell you how thrilled I am. This medium appears
to be
two-dimensional. And if you remember when I started, I talked about it. God, when I read your journals, I dare say your journaling is richer than the deep experience for people. You know what I'm saying? That somewhere in between, I have been able to get out of the way enough for you to experience my joy.
True.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I got it.
Currently, at least. Okay.
Your point of view.
Yeah. Shashwat, is it relevant?
Yes. So just going off that, you spoke about this notion of like, who are you doing this for? And you said, who am I doing this for? And I've been hearing these contradicting things and I'm getting a little confused. So there was a point where you're saying, I'm doing this for myself. This is not about, this is about me, and even this is about who you are. But then also it's like, no, it's not about you, it's about the people. So then that's just like, who is it about?
Yeah, have you met anything in life that is either or? Okay, let me change my question. I just wanted to confuse you a little more before. There is also an and. Why does it have to be either me or you? Why can it not be me and you? I'm doing it for me and I'm also doing it for you.
Positive sum game. Yes, I see what you're saying.
Confusion resolved?
Yes. Then one more thing was about a point over here. You said, am I in the present or thinking of what to do next? So this is something that bothers me. Like, if you don't know where you're going, and this may not be in the context of a classroom, but just like, you know, life in general, you don't know where you're going, then how do you have a sense of direction or like, okay, like control over yourself?
You have control over yourself?
See, here's again where you're confusing me.
I'm just asking you a question, son.
Yes, but at the same time, not really.
Good. Which answer do you like more?
Yes.
You have control?
I would like to.
Do you have control or no?
Trying to figure it out. I have no idea. That's the struggle. I don't know if I'm controlling me or my mind is controlling.
Good. You see what happens? I'm just asking you a simple question. We're a long way from the truth. The only truth is that you're there and I'm here.
Here, I believe when we are talking about being in the present, or are you actually already looking at the future and thinking what next? I also believe you cannot actually make the moment or think of what next unless you know where you are. That is.
Okay, so just to answer very quickly Shashwat's thing, I have never had a goal. I have never done any. Even today, I have no idea where I'm going. But I'm somewhere, no? And we're all somewhere. Sometimes I think this whole goal setting exercise that we talk about, no, creates more problems. Because another thing that you have to deal with is if you don't reach that goal, you're going to go below the line. Big problem. Then your self-esteem, self-worth takes a hit. What a waste of time, man. I mean, don't we have enough entertainment in our lives?
It's that nihilistic mindset, right? Like I read this quote and I'm like, whoa, it said you have nowhere to go, no one to be, no one to become, something like that. And it's like, whoa, like then what is this whole thing, you know? And this is meaningless. This is like, I don't know. It's a constant internal battle. So
nice, good. Can we take that offline now? Right. Okay. So here's what we're going to do now. You have your paper? And isn't that the next thing?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do an activity in about 2 slides. Are you still with me? A lot of cameras are off. That's an interesting one. I hope you've gone to get your coffee. So those of you who are there, we're going to do this activity. But before we move into the next piece, here's something I do want to present to you. When we work with groups, we've talked about safe environments. Another word I want to introduce is that the way we refer to this is a community. That how do we build community in a classroom? Okay, and so we're going to be. This is what I asked you last time. I said, if you were to see your children or somebody in your life 10 years from now, this was session 1, if you remember, and 10 years from now, what would you like to see? And these are the words that you came up with. And none of them have anything to do with what happens in schooling. All of these emerge as a side dish, if you will. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, we didn't educate you for it anyway.
Part of a life skill, yeah.
Okay, right. So now our anxiety as educators is to cover content. And that content has absolutely no context to any of this, unless we choose to build it, and it can be built, and that's our job. We may not be able to do activities in a classroom, but just remember, since yesterday they had experiences, just ride on that wagon and say, okay, what did you experience? And you can use their experience of the past 24 hours to build context in what you're teaching next. Okay, so the need for building community, right? Nobody comes around and says, okay, now we are a community. You can't buy it. You have to build it. So if you have to build it, you suddenly realize that community is not just me, it's a bunch of people. And it's not just my responsibility. I have to, there's this element of interdependence. Okay, so 4 elements that build community. I think what we're going to do is to take the text a little later. What I'd like you to do is to take a 5-minute break. And in the 5-minute break, think about those of you who are there, how's it going so far today? Relevant? Actionable? I'm just waiting for everybody to come back. Give it another minute.
Vishwas, approximately how much time more will this session go on for?
How long can you stay?
I should be able to stay till 7:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. People are not back yet. So this is what I'm going to do. I just want to call your attention or do some content in the context of community before we do the activity. Because I noticed in earlier sessions that when we start an activity like this immediately after a break, people go to their breakout rooms and they don't know what they're supposed to do. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to touch upon this very quickly. How do you define community? And I think our intention is in our classrooms and in whatever we do, and it can be family, it can be extended family, it can be classrooms, adult or children. The principle is the same, that if we do not build community, then we become deliverers of content, and that's what normally happens. But this community thing is about building relationships, building a sense of four things. Now, what does membership mean? Other words or ways that it can be described is a sense of belonging. That I belong to this place. So people begin to take ownership at different levels. People then, once they begin to feel a sense of membership, they invest of themselves. And all groups have a way of defining boundaries for themselves. And very often they are implicit, that means unspoken. And I think as educators, our job is to get them to articulate what boundaries they will work within. So if you're in an outdoor camp, there might be a physical boundary. There will also be an intellectual boundary that don't give us problems that we can't solve or solve with such great difficulty, or can't solve and then feel lousy about ourselves. So you can bring in the PIES element here as well. So what are the social norms that we can create for ourselves? What are things that we will be careful about addressing so that people are not emotionally, upset? Maybe we don't use bad language, or we don't do name calling. So you can use PIES here as well. People want to feel a sense of acceptance. And when people feel a sense of membership, they're willing to sacrifice. So sacrifice doesn't mean they'll give up their lives or whatever, but it's like, okay, I'm willing to give up one idli today so that I can share it with somebody else who's not getting their share of idlis, who came late for breakfast or whatever. And they often, so you'll notice that a lot of teams and groups will often create a symbol or something, a cheer for themselves that helps them bring the energy together. So these are all examples of membership at play in a community. Influence. So this is about influence that people exert on each other within the group. We know that even in this group, we are, some of us speak a little more, some of us don't speak at all, but it doesn't mean that we are not in the classroom. And as an educator, I don't want to think that just because your camera is off that you're not there, and you might not be there, but that's okay. And that's a choice that we make, but we influence each other. And I could influence the group by saying, hey, if you're there, put your camera on unless you have connectivity issues, because I'd like to talk to people rather than names. So we do influence one another. Not only do individuals influence each other, this thing called group think also influences individuals. And very often it's implicit. And you'd hear it in statements like, I thought we were going to do this. Nobody spoke about it, but the group has influenced me in a particular way. And unless I bring it up to the group to think about, then I allow that influence to stay wherever it is at. So a talking group will usually be able to resolve things in a much better way and influence one another. We're also seeking validation from one another. So the questions we ask, the answers that we give, the kind of things we talk about, at all times, we are influencing one another. Okay, that's what that means.
Vishwas, is your camera off by design, or it's not you forgot to switch it on?
Can you not see me?
I don't see your video. Your video is off.
I can see.
I can see.
I can also see him.
Yeah.
Search and you shall find me.
Okay, I found you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Maybe I didn't want to be seen. Okay, so the third piece is integration and fulfillment of needs. All members are actually, the group fulfills some of our needs. So this group, was it this group or the other group? It took them 8 or 9 sessions to come to this place where they said, hey, can we begin a conversation and create a community of our own where we continue the dialogue post-program? And I thought that was a beautiful thing because every time I have tried to suggest it to a group, it fails. But when a group decides to take something on by themselves, something magical begins to happen. And it's kind of an integration of purpose with action. Okay, so just sending out a warning at this point in time, the last session is going to be a co-created piece potentially. So think about, and the questions, so last session for the other group was, I said, look, what is it that you would want me to cover again? Or you want better understanding of? Or is there something that you're aware of that I have not covered and you think it's important? So somebody said, it'd be great if you could summarize what we've covered so far. And I said, okay, have you been on all the sessions? And they said, yes. And I said, so would you be willing to do it? And they've taken it on and they're going to present for 20 minutes a summary of all the content that is being covered. Okay, so this integration piece is also part of that whole community thing. And as educators, students can get immensely dependent on us. And at some point in time, we have to let that go. We've got to create that interdependence and independence for our groups. So I'm just warning you that at some point in time, you're going to have to take something on. Okay. And funny how even two-dimensional relationships like we are having right now can create or invite emotional response. So I'm looking at you and I can see faces, and when I see smiles, certain things happen to me. And when I laugh, I know certain things happen to you, and it's happening. But we often don't give it the weightage that it possibly needs to be given. Just know that all communities intentionally want to create an emotional bond. And we've just got to work out, okay, at what level is this going to work? How far will we take it? What does it mean for us to be emotionally connected? And because that's what really helps to keep a group or a community together. Okay, so I believe most of you are here. If you are here and you don't have your camera on, put it on. And if you're not, well, you'll miss out on some of the fun. Here's the activity that you're going to do. Any questions you might have, you can ask me now. You're going to be given 10 minutes of conversation and whatever you want. Then when we come back to the larger room, each group will have one person who is chosen to build that tower real time. You will be given 1 minute each to build that tower and measure it. Tell me when you're ready. And we're going to throw you into your breakout rooms. I hope you have your paper ready. I just want to be mindful of waste. So I had suggested that you use paper that has been printed on both sides. You're never going to use it again for anything else. You probably throw it away, so whatever. Anyway.
So is only one person in each group building it?
Eventually.
Yes, okay.
In front of camera.
Okay.
In front of the whole group, yes. And you can do whatever you want when you're with your groups. Any questions? Okay. Are you ready? Simple enough, right? Just remember, you can't use anything else, only the paper. It must be free to fall. So no sellotape, glue, blah, blah, blah. Only paper. Oh, some of you have already started. Great. I love it. I want you to be mindful of the kind of conversations you're going to have during these 10 minutes. I will check in with you about that when we meet again. Bye. So you're going to get 2 minutes. Raise your hand if you are the builder for your team. Bindu, Sheena, Nilesh, Mayuri. Neelam, you got to stop sometime today. Okay, who else? Krishna, your room, who's doing it?
Mayuri.
Mayuri, okay.
Vishwas, this is Swati.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
You're going to get 2 minutes. You've got to build your tower starting. My stopwatch is not ready. I noticed in a few groups a lot of community building happening. The rest of you got sucked into your task. I don't know whether you reached out and found out who the people were in your room. Did you? You forgot, didn't you? I know, I was there.
We did.
No, we did not. We did not. We did not forget.
We did. We did, yes.
Yeah, Sandesh, can you tell me who the people in your room were? And
So I spoke to Sri Vidya. So she works for a CSR project of Kotak Mahindra Bank. She develops the content. Nilesh was doing the hard work. He was building up the tower. Of course, I mean, we all gave us suggestions, but his idea was the best.
Okay,
So I couldn't
cool.
speak much to him.
Cool. So just know that anytime we run into an activity phase, something in the brain switches on and we forget about the community piece. And we forget to ask. And you know, it's immensely possible. Sometimes just a quick question about the person and it changes. I know that some of you did it. And it changes the way we receive each other. Okay, that was just yak to give you time. Are you ready? My clock is ready. So what put your hands up again for those of you who are going to build. Sheena, Swati, Bindu, Mayuri, Nilesh, Neelam. Okay, your time starts now. Go. And you have to do it with new paper, obviously not the stuff that you've already built. Haha.
I'm short of papers. So this is what we have already done. 2 layers.
Oh, I'm sorry, you know, I love your tower, but...
You didn't tell us to keep 4 papers, Vishwas. 8 papers, Vishwas.
Sheena, do you have enough paper with you?
How many papers are we supposed to have, Zen? I don't know. How many papers are we supposed to have, Zen?
I don't know, but
They just said few, right?
Oh,
okay.
Oh, we have used only one paper, Vishwas. Are we supposed to? Are we allowed to?
You're allowed to use as many papers as you want.
Okay.
See, some of you got smart and you're using thick paper, aren't you? "30 seconds left. And then it has to stand for 10 seconds, remember that. So I'll do the countdown after 2 minutes are over. And the camera has to be able to see your tower. Otherwise, how will we know? You wonderful tower builders, please be kind. 10 seconds to go.
Vishwas done. Like, I can't build it.
Who's that? Who's that?
Ananya this side, breakout room number 6.
Yep, okay.
In my group.
10, 9,
Okay.
8, 7, 6. Bindu.
Ananya, how many layers? Quickly tell me.
Four,
Three. So I'm letting it go.
1.
Hold on, it's
Wherever
4.
you
It's 4.
are.
Ananya, it's 4.
Okay, Bindu, Dukan Band. Swati,
okay.
1 sheet high.
Okay, Ananya,
How are you?
Gayatri, how many? 3.
4.
4. Brilliant. You use interesting paper.
I can't see yours, Sheena.
Neelam, you're supposed to leave it free to fall, remember? You might want to get your dog out of the way.
I don't think it's gonna be standing free falling. It's gonna just fall.
Okay, time's up. Great. Wonderful. Get back to wherever you are. Come back, come back. Okay, great. How many different things can you process an activity like this for?
Strategy, teamwork.
Did you have a
Geometry,
strategy?
teamwork, creativity, strategy,
Execution.
community. I mean, relationship. How do you, are you connecting, focusing on the relationship, or are you focusing on the task?
How many things can you not process this for?
The actual skill of it. I mean,
really?
I mean, you could, but then it's also defeats the purpose in some way, right?
What is the strongest structure architecturally?
Triangle.
Pyramid.
So if you build a cone, you can build a tower only 1 cone high.
Strongest structure, right?
Yeah, but what shape is that?
Well, it's a triangle for us, which is not closing per se. So it's open from here. Because we couldn't use the glue or anything else. So if I turn it around, yeah.
No, don't worry. Oh, it looks beautiful. Now let it fall.
No, I don't want to.
Okay, I tell you what. Glue it to your table. Make it permanent. The beauty is that it is going to fall. All beautiful things fall apart. Sorry. All you beautiful people out there. Okay, great. So here's another question. How many curricular topics can emerge from this activity?
Mathematical reasoning.
Mathematical,
Definitely.
tensile strength, like physics and all.
Like what? Don't say physics at all.
No, strength, like, the, what do you call it, the tensile strength, weight holding, how much of a weight, like on a bridge or a building and all that, yeah.
It's center of gravity for balance.
Pythagoras theorem.
Okay.
Trigonometry.
3D shapes.
Okay.
Like you said, the strongest shape, like,
Yeah.
those kind of things we think about.
There's a beautiful book. I don't know if it's available anymore, but it's called Adventures in Architecture, where you can do activities using paper, straw. So alternate materials that you can use. One is paper, straws, toothpicks, thorns. Give me more.
Matchstick.
Matchsticks.
Ice cream sticks.
Yep, absolutely. So you got it. So just remember that we tend to think of curriculum stuff as non-teachable experientially, but if we allow ourselves a little freedom, I think a hell of a lot can be taught that way. Yeah. Now you introduce the whole head, heart, hand piece. what word describes for you how you're feeling at the end of this activity or during the activity? What was going on during the activity for you?
Excited and curious.
Excited. Yeah.
Engaged.
Engaged, yeah.
Okay.
Initially inhibited.
How many of you were aware of time?
We were aware.
We were
not.
We were.
Not much.
Yeah, aware of time
lost.
when it started the countdown?
Ticking down.
Yeah.
Once
No, not.
once the strategizing was over and I didn't have much to do at that point of time is when I started getting aware of time, not before that. So let's say 6-7 minutes after the time elapsed.
Right.
A lot of reflection and open-mindedness also is one thing, because we were continuously talking that. So initially we just made one cylindrical circle which had, you know what, 4 sides of it, and then we started talking and we thought, oh, what shape would be in the bottom, can we use more than one paper? So a lot of open-mindedness came through across the group, where everybody was able to think and accept the opinions, which was very important, and then reflect at the same time. Oh, this is not working, oh, this is working. So trial and error along with the reflection worked.
Now do you understand that model which talked the flow theory? Remember that? State of flow?
Yes.
Yes.
This is an example of
We were
it.
in state flow.
Okay, great. Shall we continue? Here's what I want you to think about. That when we decide to do things only in a particular way, then we get stuck to that way. And for me, those who have been required to memorize the world as it is, and I remember a conversation with a teacher who was teaching some 5th grade or 6th grade history. And she was then asked to, they said, hey, can you teach 9th grade history next year? And she went, oh. And I said, why, what's the problem there? And she got stuck to that place where she was a 6th grade history teacher. And mind you, she was an MA in history. And somewhere there was this big gap between what she'd studied and what she was teaching. And she could not bridge the gap till there was a bigger conversation that what does it really require? And for her, in the end, it was not the content, it was who she had decided she was. And she decided she was a 6th grade teacher. Now she's got to teach 9th grade. How am I going to handle those children? They will be like this, they will be like that, all kinds of stuff. And you can't create a new world unless we're able to get out of that thinking. Okay, so here's a look at how we can build community consciously. Okay, I'm using the word community. Organizations and other people also use a word called team. Okay, great. So here is the definition of a team. And 2 things define what a team is. 1, they have a common purpose. And 2, there is very clear interdependence. That means what I do affects you and what you do affects me. Would you then say that any classroom could be defined as a team? Any doubts around that? Okay. I want you to go back to your first job. Can you do that? Yeah, I'm guessing everybody here had a first job except probably Shashwat and Srishti. Okay? Go back to that place. And for those of you who are not working yet, think of when you changed your school and joined a new school. when you went to Hong Kong or when you went to the US? Are you there? In that place, which words that you see here describe how you were feeling that day?
Horrified.
How do they do that? Heart.
Thrilled.
Go to the annotation tool and put a heart or a star on that word.
I will do. And
Sorry, Vishwas, how does one get into the annotation?
Take the mouse to the top of the screen and you will see a black drop-down menu.
Yeah.
View options, annotate.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, Zen, you're becoming a master at this, man.
Don't me. Don't me.
Vishwas, can it be more than one?
Yeah. Definitely more than one. I think most of us were more than one.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that screen. Can you see the screen?
But where is the heart?
Stamp.
Now
Under stamp.
we'll have to
It's
do
in the
surgery.
stamp. It's
Pardon?
under stamp, Zen. Stamp.
Stamp,
Click
stamp.
stamp.
Okay,
You
okay,
see a
okay.
heart
Yeah.
there?
I forgot. Yes, I have done this before. Huh?
Okay, so let's just overwhelm. Wow, it's got the most ones. Thrilled, motivated, confused, worried. Okay, great. Get back. Come back to the class. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to describe to you various stages, and this is normal for most people. Okay? And I'm guessing that with all those hearts that were, most of the hearts were above the line, and there was some below the line. Yes? Okay, now let's look at what that means. Can I move on? Yeah. The first thing that people really want when they come to a classroom or a new place is what we call orientation. Okay? And orientation is the question, why am I here? Now don't mistake this to be, oh, I'm here to join a course or do a job or whatever. Very few appointment letters and KRAs described in an appointment letter have anything to do with what you actually land up doing. Right? So, you really want to know, and so I'm going to talk about this in the third person, which means I'm saying that most people who join or come to a new place want to know why they are there. Now, you have to see this from the educator's point of view. Regardless of whether that kid has been in that school all along since first grade, but even in the 9th and 10th grades when they're finishing, that question is really alive because they've had 3 months of holiday, and you know that all changes seem to happen during the holidays. So, now, resolved means that we do something about it. Unresolved, and so what does that mean? If that question, why am I here, is answered, then people feel a sense of purpose, membership, and identity. If they're unresolved and we don't do anything, I don't know. How many of you did not have any orientation when you joined that place? Right. So think about what happens. Yeah. And if we remember the fact that our emotional state often defines how we're going to perform, then it makes sense that we want to get people to be able to get an answer to this question, why am I here? Just remember, through this entire thing, you can stop me at any time if you need clarification. I'm going to quickly walk you through it. Okay. Now, these are many different stages. Just remember that we can, okay, I'll come to that later. The second question they're asking is, who are you? Which is, what do you do? Where do you come from? What are you interested in? What's your history like? What excites you? What depresses you? What are you scared of? What do you love doing? What do you do after work? There's a whole life around that. We are not just the people who walk into that space for 8 hours. There's a life before and there's a life after. And that who are you encompasses that. Background, conditioning, beliefs, religion, everything. The model uses the word trust. I don't like the word trust because I don't know what it means and you can't build it. That I have learned over 30 years of practice. Most of my work is around trust building and I've never been able to build trust in anybody else. But that's a different conversation. So, if it's resolved, if the question, who are you, is answered, there's a greater acceptance of one another and one another's language and ways and so on and so forth. What it does help do is build mutual regard, build a sense of reliability, and conversations are more forthright. Yeah, so you can have much better conversations if we can get our groups to get to discover each other. If they're not, then I'm constantly in a state of mistrust in people's abilities as well as their motives, and therefore I behave cautiously, which means that I'm good. Every morning I walk into that space, I put on a mask, I put on a facade. Everybody is in some place with a purpose, including families. Please remember this. A family is also a community. And the families, most families struggle in relationships, I think primarily, this is my opinion, primarily because we do not have a formal way of resolving some of these things. We don't talk about these things. There's a lot that is implicit. There's a lot that is assumed. What's the time, man? 7:40. Damn it. I am sorry I'm running ahead of, we're running late. Those of you who really need to leave, please don't feel bad. The recording will be available. I do need to go through this. After 7 o'clock, it's all free of charge tuition. Oh, okay. People need to know what they're there for. What are they doing? What are we really going to do? Okay, we've got together and we've discovered about each other. What are we doing here? The assumptions become explicit, which means people start talking about, they state things up front. Goals get clarified. And they begin to look in the same direction. If not, and I mean, the number of organizations that really have these conditions of apathy and skepticism and irrelevant competition is just amazing how much of my corporate work has had to do with this condition. They won't say there is apathy. They will often say, hey, you know what? People are not taking ownership. And the reason very often is that they don't care enough. Why? Because they don't know about each other enough. So you kind of go up and down this line. You can remember, you can stop me at any time and, okay. We've still not come to doing anything. We're still talking about asking all these what appear to be really simple questions. How will we do it? And here we get introduced to the logistics of a place, even within the family. How will we have a meal? Who's going to buy the provisions? Who's going to make the meal? Why does the lady of the house always land up doing the stuff? It's all implicit. Nobody talks about it, but you know, the expectation is that the lady of the house will do it. And somewhere, if a conversation can emerge about some of these things, I think it will make a great deal of difference. So we have to move back to who are you? Who do you see yourself as? If we can have a conversation about this, then we can allocate resources, assign roles, and make decisions. So, okay, I'm going to make breakfast in the morning, you can make lunch, I will make dinner. Something like that. I'm just also trying to show you that some of the stuff that often gets seen as corporate jargon and models came from people's personal experience in their own families. Nobody went to the organization to have that look-see. It usually emerged from a personal experience and very often at home. So, for the past few weeks, I've been talking about this serial in Marathi, on Marathi television. And it's the story of this single mother raising a boy who is now 28 and married, but still, before every day, it's like classic. He goes into the shower and then he says, Ma, can I have a towel? Where's my towel? Why have you not put my towel there? Blah, blah, blah. Then he comes out, and then his mother, of course, is playing that roll to the hilt. And she says, oh, your hair is still wet. Let me wipe it for you. The guy is 28 years old. What was happening for 28 years? And this dependence. And in an organization, it works the same way. If the boss is making all the decisions, then everybody else becomes dependent. And how will we do it? Oh, I'm going to wait till the boss tells me. And of course, when the boss tells you something, you're going to offer resistance because it doesn't match what you think should be done or how it should be done. I know some of you are smiling and you know what I'm talking about, whether it's the home story or it's the work story. There's just amazing similarity. The funny thing is this, organizations and teams will very often say, oh, we are a family. You know what I mean? But nobody in a family ever says, hey, let's function like an organization. This is where the rubber hits the road. What does that mean? If we have not done these 4 stages, what is the first question? Your mics need to come on. All you beautiful
How will we
Why am I
function?
here?
Why am I here?
Why here?
Who are you?
Who am I?
Not who
What
am
are
I?
we
That's a
doing?
philosophic question.
What am I doing?
Who are you?
Who are you?
What are we doing? What are we
What are we doing?
And how will we do
And how do we do it?
How do we do
Mind you, the act of doing whatever we are supposed to be doing hasn't even begun. Very rarely do we go through this. when I gave you the task of building the tower, this is what you did.
Who does what when where?
Yes or no? Let's get the tower done. Let's perform the task. What's the task? Oh, we have to build that tower. Did anybody ask, why are we building a tower? What a stupid thing to do. Nobody's going to live in it anyway. See, none of those 4 questions got asked. We just jumped into implementation. You got to remember one thing in my role. Oh yeah, Gayatri, I know you have an argument. Just hold on for a second. Remember, my job, and this is the first time I'm saying it on the virtual space. My job is lay out traps for you, and your job is to
walk on those traps.
Fall into them.
Did fall in the trap.
And you did. Anybody still has an argument? Of course, Gayatri. I'll give you 30 seconds.
So there's no of course in here, but I'll speak quickly. You did share the lesson objective and the ideas behind why are we building the tower. So
Yeah,
that is the reason for our why.
Oh, and you were clear
Not
about
all
it?
questions were answered, but at least one was answered. And
were
then
you
we did
clear?
ponder upon it eventually.
You pondered upon all that teamwork and all that goal-oriented stuff that was written there?
Well, it was written there, so it was readable, and we did do the teamwork. So some points were.
How do you know it was a team?
Because we were doing it together, right?
Oh, really?
We were thinking
Therefore,
together.
therefore, anybody doing anything in the world is a team.
Not together. We were a community building the tower together.
Why do people
Even though
have
we were
so
in a
many
virtual
team building
space.
workshops?
I didn't get your question.
Do you know that the single most workshop on demand by any organization is team building?
Team building.
Mind you, they're already performing their task. So the question is, just because a task is performed, are we a team? And
We
do
were
those
doing
4
it
questions?
together. Won't that make us a team? Since we were doing it together, won't that make us a team?
Will it?
Wow.
I'm happy if you
Thinking
feel
out
that you are a team. I know, I'm happy. At some point in time, I'll come and poke holes in your theory. Not right now. But the point is this, that a lot of people equate job done must be a team. And in 30 years of team building, I have not met a team from the theoretical point of view. That's my truth. Maybe I'm just not lucky. Okay, whatever. So here's the implementation stage. If we don't ask those questions, certain things happen. If we ask those questions, different things happen. So at the implementation stage, if we've asked those 4 questions, then did you have disciplined execution?
As in?
You don't even know what it means yet.
No.
Oh, good. Did you have a clear process?
No.
Were you aligned? Were you aligned
Yes.
in your thinking?
Yes.
And what does that mean? You make the thing because I have only 1 sheet of paper?
No.
Come on. Be careful.
No. That doesn't mean so.
Okay, great. You see what I'm saying? If you don't, was there conflict and confusion potential? Now, you are all nice to each other, I'm sure. And that's how we normally are. We don't think a paper tower is good enough reason to cuss each other. It's not critical enough. And I will raise this question again when I talk about, I'm sorry it's getting late, but I'm just going to leave the rest to you to go through, okay? Because I do want to address the shoelace problem. Okay. So just remember, at all times, anytime, you can go up and down the line if you notice symptoms, which is why I love this model so much. If you sense apathy, where will you go?
Down. Below the line.
Where will you go? Which yellow circle, which question will you try and address?
Goal clarification.
What are we doing?
If you encounter resistance,
Why am I here? Why continue?
how will we do it?
Who are you?
How will we do it?
You see those red words? I'm just picking from there.
Wow. So well done. Huh?
I cheated, kya? Okay. Okay. Right. Ta-da! Do you know how much you've covered?
Go.
Yeah. All this stuff.
Great.
Okay. Shoelace. Every response I got, the underlying theme was those shoelaces need to be tied. Okay? Now, I don't know how to do this except through role play. So who wants to be the child, or all of you want to be children? I don't know. Neelam? Srishti? Okay. There we got candidates. Right. So here's the scenario. You're walking along. I see it. Now, there's a lot of drama and theatrics involved in experiential ed, okay?
Okay.
Right. So play with me. You're walking along and I notice it and I say, so who is it? Neelam or Srishti?
She stood first.
Okay. Hey, Srishti, what's with your shoelaces?
They're fine.
They're
What's gonna
fine?
happen? I mean, they're untied, but it's fine.
Okay.
I
And the
like them.
reason is? And the reason is?
The reason.
What's your
What's gonna
reason?
happen? What's
You
gonna
need,
happen?
now you can come closer. I can see your shoelaces. Now I know all about it.
Yeah, what's gonna happen to me? Like, I haven't fallen yet. I like it. And I like them like this.
Oh, you think you're going to fall? I didn't say so, but you think you're going to fall?
I don't think so, but you're implying it.
I did? What did I say that implied it?
Conditioning.
I didn't.
Okay, no.
I didn't say anything. I asked you a question.
Yeah, just answer. Okay, no, I like them untied.
Ah, wonderful reason. You like them untied. And what is it you like about untied shoelaces?
When I all over, I feel like an angel or something, you know. My foot feels like an angel.
Oh,
The
nice.
laces are like wings.
I love the image. Where are you going? Now, look, I've already won the battle, so I'm going to feed you. Where are you going? So here's the point. I'm trying. Do you get what I'm, guys, are you getting what I'm doing? What am I doing?
Having a conversation, trying to make the child just having a conversation.
Go get sharper. Have I talked to you about 4S? I have, no? No?
No.
Okay. Can I introduce you to the concept? When we ask questions, our job in the reflection process, we know that experiential ed in many ways differs from traditional education in the fact that we think that reflection is a critical part of the learning process. Yes? No? Okay, cool. Reflection is a process of the educator asking questions. Those questions need to have 4 immediate properties. Your questions must be short. Short questions. Simple questions. Short, simple, sharp, and sweet. Now,
Can you define sweet, please, Vishwas, first?
Sweet is, you've asked a beautiful question.
Is that a sweet question?
That's a sweet question. I'll give you an example of a sweet question. What's with your shoelaces? Simple, short, sharp. There's no wandering around. She wandered. You see, she made this big assumption that I wanted her to tie her shoelaces, and I was nowhere in that place in my head. Nothing in my question implied any of it, but she's been told so many times by her mother and her teachers that her conditioning kicked in, not mine.
So would it be different if you asked me the question and I questioned you back?
Feel free.
Okay, so when you asked me what is up with your shoelace,
Lost you. Lost you.
So
Right?
Oh no.
Yeah, your connectivity is a little... Okay, you could. But you know what? In this game, you can't win. You know why? Because I have no intention of winning.
Why?
I have no intention of winning. And when I say winning, that winning is that intention in me, that part of me that wants you to tie your shoelaces. And everything I receive, now you can go back to what you wrote in your journal, you will notice that there is this hidden thing that's saying, I want the shoelaces to be tied. Even if the reason is as silly as I am feeling uncomfortable. Okay? So, what are the 4 S's?
Short, simple,
Short, simple, sharp,
Sharp
sweet.
and sweet.
Let me define sharp. Surgery. What tool does a surgeon use?
Scalpel.
Scalpel. Why are there other tools in life he could use? No?
Precise. They're not sharp and precise.
So which? Okay, I can use a saw, no? So even in facilitation, there is, for me, okay, this is my language, you won't find it in a book. There is such a thing as sawing your way through to an answer. And there's the scalpel sharp method where it's like so sharp that the person has no choice. Okay, so the spirit of the shoelace is not about getting them tied. It's about creating a space for exploration and discovery. Why do I not give answers? Some of you have already got that from the sessions we've had so far. And the reason is that if I give you an answer, I have failed you as an educator. And there are times when you will get so desperate that you will say, no, I want an answer right now. I will give it to you. If you get that desperate, I will give it to you. But you know what? It may not work for you. Shoelace problem resolved? Or no? Anybody still wants to play? We can.
I don't want to play. I just have a question.
Yes.
But then, okay, it's not going to be the 4S question because it's slightly long. I was just wondering.
No. So next time I hear anybody rambling, I'm going to do this.
All right. So let me try to phrase it properly then.
Yeah. What is it you really want to know? Ask yourself that first.
What should be the timing of this conversation?
Anytime.
So during when a child is playing and I call a child there in the middle and then I start having this conversation, if I was a child, I wouldn't want to listen to me then.
Good. So you know it's not the right time.
Okay.
You already know that. See, that's the sweetness. Somebody asked, what is sweet? You only asked, no? What is sweet? That's sweet. You just discovered sweetness.
Could you explain it a little bit more? Sweetness?
Would it be sweet if you dragged that kid off the field and said, hey, what's with the shoelaces, dude? No. You see that kid walking, kind of sauntering along, and you walk, you see them go past, and you say, "Hey, what's with the shoelaces?" Which is better?
The second one.
Sweet. And mind you, you will not come to sweetness very easily. You'll bump your head along, you'll bumble along, and that's great.
Is sweetness about being invitational?
Sweetness is you as the facilitator or the educator or the parent recognizing, damn, I got it. I got the short, I got the sharp, I got the simple. You say, that was good. And you know what? Something remarkable will happen even with that person because there's no ambiguity. So, if you want to look at the other side, avoid multiple choice questions. Are your shoelaces tied because you don't like me, or you don't like your shoes, or you want to fall, or what exactly is it that you want to do? Now that kid doesn't know which question you really want answered.
It actually feels like the kid's being shouted
Can I
at.
share with you the questions which came to my mind?
Sure.
To be asked?
Can I be the child?
Yes. Hey, Johnny, are you okay?
I'm cool.
Did you get hurt?
No.
Okay. Even if it is a little bruise there, we'll get a dressing for you in the medical room and you will be fine. But how did you fall?
Did I fall?
Yes, this is for the case where
it's part of the game.
Okay. Well, how come other children didn't fall?
I guess they weren't playing hard enough.
So, is it a good idea to keep your laces tied if you don't want to fall?
Weird idea.
Did the teacher tell you that the laces should be tied whenever you are in uniform?
All teachers, my parents, my brothers, my sisters, in the colony, everybody tells me to tie my shoelaces.
So, so do you find that listening to the instructions given by a teacher is good sometimes?
Are you seriously asking me this question?
Yes.
Are you okay with my answer?
See.
Will you be okay with whatever answer I give?
It's not matching.
Huh?
See, if the child...
Now, you're the older person. Now I've got to be worried about exactly what you're asking. Bring the 4 S's together. What exactly do you want to know?
I want that child to first realize that he failed because the shoes, the laces
I
were not
know.
tied.
You already lost it. The moment you have your intention in mind, you are going to go around this way, that way, trying to get to me. And hey, you know what? I don't get it. Because you're telling me the same thing, but you're wasting a lot of energy. At some point in time, I'm going to ask you, Milan, do you want me to tie my shoelaces? and if you want me to tie my shoelaces, I will.
Okay. So how do you go?
So here's the
how
principle.
do you frame your questions?
Here's the principle. If you are attached to outcome, you will do everything possible to get to that outcome. And that is the failure of the classroom. And the outcomes are too many to be described, which makes the life of a teacher hell. I have to attend all classes in time. I have to wear a sari. I'm just throwing some into the pot, okay? I have to finish my worksheet for the day. I have to do my reports. I have to give tests. I have to correct papers. I have to correct notebooks. Can you imagine? Now we make that a huge thing. You know why? Because in my opinion, those outcomes are all a waste of time. It has nothing to do with learning. Sorry. You just got me worked up, man.
No, it's okay. My query is then how do you go about it?
Right. So this is what I'm saying. You want to be the kid? I'll play with you.
No, I am conditioned. If I am the kid, I will keep answering the question the way I wanted you to answer.
That's it. And I'm saying, and at some point in time, this is the beauty. I will let go. Okay? But I will keep the door open for dialogue. Okay, here's a statement that may make sense at this point in time. It may not. I usually cover it in the conflict piece that I do in the course, which I'm not doing with this course because we are doing curriculum stuff later. But here's a statement that changed my life completely. This is what it says. You cannot hold yourself responsible for what you cannot control.
Okay.
You see, every one of us in our response to that shoelace problem got involved with the outcome. You've got no control over that kid tying shoelaces beyond your being able to see that kid. Yes. I'm going to open my shoelaces the moment I'm out of sight. Hey, it's fashion. Maradona does it. Remember seeing that video, right? If Maradona can do it and he's my hero, I will do it. I have no control over you tying your shoelace. Why am I holding myself responsible? Are you not holding yourself responsible in that conversation to get me? Yeah, that's it. And I think that's where we miss the point. How can I stay in a position, in a role of inquiry, exploration, discovery? Because that's where the fun is. Yes, Ashwat.
So as you was talking, something I remembered is when we're usually kids, like when someone tells us don't do this, we have an effect where we're like, no, now I will do this only. And I've seen in college a lot of kids, like until when they were at home, the parents used to control them a lot. So when they go to college, they go all crazy and berserk and like do all sorts of unsafe things. So
are you talking about yourself?
Not about myself.
Oh, really? Okay. We'll let that go at this point.
But what I thought a facilitator can do is reverse psychology. Instead of trying to take control, you let go. And letting go is the way to take control. So that
your intention is taking control and you're using letting go as a strategy, you will bumble along. You will bump your head at some point in time.
I think that will just create a lot of conflict within the facilitator also, right? Because the facilitator is trying to take control and let go at the same time.
Manipulative.
No, but aren't you saying that we do not have to take control, because taking control is also an outcome?
Yeah.
So we do not take control, we just go with the process and we just let the child be whenever he wants to tie laces in his life.
Stay with the process.
So you're saying let it go and the child will eventually in life tie the laces.
Let it go does
to.
not, careful. This is what often people take it to. Letting it go does not mean that you don't do anything.
Can I be the child, please? Can we do the role
Sure.
play once? Yeah.
Gayatri, what's your problem, man? Why are your shoelaces untied?
Because it makes my shoe very tight. It makes my feet tight.
Okay. So if we, what I'm hearing is you don't want to tie your shoelaces?
No, I don't want to.
You don't want to. Can we cut them off?
Yeah.
Cool.
But then I sometimes I feel that they need to be tight enough. If we cut them off, then they won't be tight. Then my shoe can fall off totally.
Got it. So can you show me how far you want it tightened?
Yeah, bit.
Great. So now you're showing me.
Oh, I have to show you.
Say you've tied it.
Okay.
Let's say
I don't
you've
have
got to
any
whatever
shoe
that
on.
level
Okay.
is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Does this work for you?
Yes, right now it does. But when I run, my feet become tighter again.
Right.
Then then it has to lose up.
So what will you do?
I won't tie the laces at all.
Oh, is that one way? And the other way is?
There's no other way, because if I tie them, then my feet will be tighter.
Yeah, but we just discovered that you can tie them so that you still don't feel tied in.
Okay, so I tie them a bit.
That's it. And you can then loosen them a bit when you're running or whatever.
Okay. But then my shoe falls off when I'm running.
So are you okay with that?
No, but then you're saying that tie them a bit. But if I tie them a
I'm
bit,
not
that
saying
might
I'm
also
just
fall.
suggesting. You can, would you like to do that or not?
I can try that.
You can try
We'll
that.
see
Great.
if it works.
Let's see if it works. Sure. Wonderful idea. Let me know after you're running whether it works or not.
Okay.
I'm done.
I just fallen into my own trap. Okay.
No, you didn't. I laid it for you. My job, remember, even if you fell into your own trap, I'm going to take credit for it. No, it wasn't a trap, Gayatri. Just understand this. I'm trying not to use, I'm very conscious of the fact that
again, you ended up, your intention was for me to tie the laces. That's why you were making me figure out different solutions to tie.
Don't bully me. You can ask me that question. You can't tell me.
Okay, was your intention to tie?
Which part of what I said showed any intention that you should tie it?
I feel, and I'm asking you, do you think the part when you said that I suggest you to, tie them a bit and then see if it works for you or not?
And you had the freedom to say, no, it doesn't work for me. Why don't you try that? You want to try it? Look, no matter where you go, let me tell you the beauty of this process. If you are not attached to outcome, your dialogue will be open-ended. It's a big playing field. When you are attached to it, it becomes a lane, it becomes an alley.
I have a follow-up question, if I may ask.
That's why we're here.
Do you think not having an outcome also frizzles out the purpose of the whole act like I know if there's an outcome, that's the point where I have to reach. Like we define it as lesson objective, right? That's the objective of the lesson. So that becomes the outcome.
Okay.
What was that?
That was
So,
Hi Daya, or whatever they do in Bollywood.
so
You're gone already, Gayatri. The moment you believe that that lesson, whatever that worksheet must be completed, you're gone. It's over.
No. It's not the worksheet. I'm not focusing on the task itself. I'm focusing on the skill. If my skill is to teach how to mark on a map, I might do anything in the process. I might do anything experiential on the process and make them do it. I'm also focusing on the process. But then the outcome shows that I know that that's definite. I know that's the skill I want them to reach. So that's the outcome.
Nice. Go on.
Right? An objective defines the outcome. And the process is something that we are focusing on as well. So don't you think that's important?
You're doing a wonderful job. Now go ahead. What's the problem?
The problem is you just said that the outcome don't
I'll tell you what the problem is. You want all the children to be able to do it on a particular day.
Possibly, yeah.
And what's the problem? Why can't some kid do it 1 week after that? Because because not all those kids are the same.
So a kid might tie shoelaces after 10 days or after 10 months, and it's okay.
My sons, I keep taking my son's examples. I had this long conversation with him yesterday. 24 years old, still not folding his clothes. And he doesn't do it. I have to do it, or his mother has to do it. And I said, what's up with you guys? And we had this interesting conversation. I said, okay, here's the thing. I don't care whether you fold your clothes or not. One, I do care that your mother folds them. And I have no control over her decisions, but I think it's a little unfair. I'm not attached to him folding his clothes. My outcome is related to something else. It's about his mother not having to do it around you. And how long will you, and if it goes awry, just remember it can always go to, how long would you like to do this? Another year? Okay, I'm going to put it on the calendar. I'm going to work on it. Hey, you know what I'm saying? The spirit with which we come as educators when we are not attached to outcome allows us immense freedom and creativity to get around what otherwise would be a problem. It's a beautiful space.
Okay, I get that now. Now I feel, I understand. Thank you.
And just remember, you'll still bumble along, but try and remember the principle of it. If we do not explore, then there's something wrong in us first. Because life invites exploration. That is its nature. We want it like that. Shashwat, get lost another day. Look, guys, I know it's late. I know last time you hung around till 8:30. Oh shoot, it's almost 8:30. Anyway, this is when the conversations get rich and real. I'm okay with it. So just remember, this is our 5th session. We are halfway through the course. We're going to send you a URL. Please take time and write down something so we know what's going on with you. Is there anything else that you desperately want to chat about before you go to sleep or don't go to sleep tonight?
Vishwas, I too had a question.
Of course, Lasha.
Zenobia wanted something.
I think she's just saying bye.
I can't hear
you. Okay.
Zenobia, I can't hear you.
I'm expecting some visitors and I have to go.
You're still around?
Okay. Yeah, I'm still around, but I'm going now. I don't feel like leaving.
Okay.
I don't feel like leaving. That's the
I'm sorry about that.
It was lovely. It was lovely. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Vishwas, my question is about today's activity which we did, the tower. I will not put it like this because it'll come back to me. Like, I mean, I don't think, or what was the outcome you were expecting out of it? See, we were given a definite time. Did focus on, you know, building a team and doing it as a team and trying to achieve the goal that was set to us. But then it was given back to us telling how much did you get to know your team. So what was the purpose of that activity?
It was certainly not my intention to call out what you did not do.
Okay.
I have given this activity with no time and no boundaries whatsoever, and still people get hooked into the task. You know why? That's the safest place.
No boundaries in the sense, we were told from this tower who will sit within a particular time or
no time. No time.
Acha, okay.
Build the tallest tower.
Right.
Now build the tallest tower that you and your team can build. So it's not a competition.
It's not a competition.
I didn't pitch it to you as a competition. I think you got that. But people do get competitive. They do say, oh, tallest tower wins. Yay. Who cares? I mean, life is not about building paper towers, right? It is about discovering people. And you can give people no time boundaries and no other boundaries that they can use excuses for. And you know what? The truth is, they will still not try and discover who the other person is.
Correct. Got it. Thank you. That's wonderful.
And any activity will do this.
Right, yeah.
In all these years of doing this team building stuff and leadership stuff, I'm just waiting, and it has happened a few times, but I'm just waiting for somebody to say, hey, you know what, 10 minutes is not enough. And I say, why? And they say, I want to know who I'm building a tower with.
Correct.
Do you know that when they were building the Burj in Dubai, when they came to a crisis, this was the defining piece, that the people who were putting up the windows, manufacturing and putting up the windows, had no idea who the rest of the team was that was building the rest of it.
Correct. Yeah.
It was a remarkable discovery that they made. I mean, what? Didn't we know this? Yes, we did. But crisis enhances crisis.
Yeah, thank you, Vishwas.
Sounds like you guys are all so reflective, you don't want to leave this place. Would it be kinder for me to throw you out?
No, done, we're done. Thank you.
Okay.